pop it up like that.
Was that able to work?
No.
No? So I know actually one thing with story maps, and this is just to kind of help you guys, like you're gonna have to, it'll be way easier when you end up typing out your own project.
Just right there.
So if you're not able to copy and paste it, then you can type and come back to it later.
See? Did you try it? Santana, control yourself, because you're being recorded.
So now we're going to move on to a different type of content block. And one kind of tip is if you're building out the story map and you don't know how to add, a new content block and you don't know what you're doing in terms of like adding content and you don't know how to do it, if you move your cursor and just hold it, you'll see a plus sign pop up. So once you see the plus sign pop up, then you're able to select a new content block. Did you have a question?
No.
So now the next content block that we're going to do is image.
All right, cutting and pasting.
So again,
Okay, no problem.
the gentleman in the back talking about how you can drag different files in. You can drop and drag a file, but you can also, so the one that we're going to be wanting to choose is image 2.
Right.
So I'll show that again. You're going to end up clicking the plus sign,
Here.
selecting image, and then browse your files and click image 2. And then after you select it, then you can click add.
No, there's no paste there.
Will that be above or below the paragraph?
It's really, so now like for this, it will be below it, but for this is just kind of to help you guys understand how to make a story map because you'll be creating your own story maps. So really it just depends on how you want to. You guys remember doing the geo inquiry in the map and you didn't have to log in and you were able to, you know, explore ArcGIS. So what Mr. Crump is going to have you do for your biography project is to give you an option to use story maps instead of Google Slides. And so what you can do is you can end up creating your own interactive maps and you'll need a username and login. So think of it like logging into Schoology. So when Mr. Crump is giving attendance, if you come up, I'll give you this and it will have a temporary password and your username. And then when we start talking about story maps, we'll be able to go through the whole thing because it'll be pretty easy. And we'll get to that. So the thing that Mr. Crump was bringing up is that this will follow you through the whole school year and you can end up logging in whenever you want. You could create maps and different types of, you know, geographic data if you're interested for this class, and you can also even use it for, you know, your other classes as well because this is a free username login with the ArcGIS organization with Esri's. So just wanted to give that.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Crump.
All right, so Ariana. All right, so moving on. Please note these and don't lose them. All right, in terms of the fall biography project, let me just introduce this. This is uploaded to Schoology now. So let's take a look and go over this. We're just going to go over this for 5 minutes, and we will continue to go over this tomorrow and in the weeks ahead. One second. All right, so under the folder Classroom Resources, you will find this blue folder here, the Fall Biography Project. Let's open up the first tab, the PDF here. All right, everyone take a look. And we're just going to spend 5 minutes to go over this real quick. 8th grade social studies, all sections, final project, industrial and economic growth. Note that this corresponds to the unit that we've been working on. Okay. The material we covered in the unit on industrial and economic growth, lessons 1 through 6, has provided us with a brief look into the lives of many prominent figures. Several have made substantial contributions to the nation's history and have demonstrated extraordinary leadership. As a final project for this unit, you and your partner will create an ArcGIS story map or Google slide presentation about one of the following leaders mentioned in our coursework. The presentation should be a detailed biographical summary of one of these historically prominent individuals. And here is the list: Leland Stanford, Cornelius Vanderbilt, J.P. Morgan, Chief Joseph, Sitting Bull, Geronimo, Andrew Carnegie, J.D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, the Wright brothers, Crazy Horse, James Naismith, George Eastman, Nikola Tesla, Mary Harris, Mother Jones, and Granville T. Woods. Each project should include the sections listed below, which center on various aspects of the individual you have chosen. Follow along carefully. Section 1. The early life and background of the individual, their place of birth, their date of birth, their parental background, and their upbringing. That's section 1. And it's worth 15 points. Section 2, youth development and education. Another 15 points. Their experiences as a youth, their formal education and or training. Section 3, major contributions or initiatives, events. This is worth 15 points also. Essential facts and accomplishments of the person and why they are historically important. Section 4, their legacy, the impact, significance. Another 15 points. How did the person leave an impression and impact on American life? Right? What is their enduring legacy, i.e. buildings, institutions, inventions, or foundations? Section 5, this is a reflection section for you. How did the research go? Did you have any problems? Did you have any questions? What innovative ideas did you learn from this project? And section 6, the format, the conventions, databases for the project. This is 25 points. Students should use the following database websites: biography.com, history.com, Britannica, and one of your choosing. The project should include a reference sheet where all work is to be cited and credit given to authors of various articles, books, or journals. In addition, I've talked to Ms. Cow. Last year she came and did a presentation on references and sites. She's going to do the same thing prior to the due date of this project. Important matters to consider for all projects. The project must be free of all mistakes in terms of grammar, spelling, capitalization. The project must include a minimum of 3 images of the historical person. And it must include 8 to 10 slides dedicated to the individual if you're opting to use the Google Slides option, okay? So we'll talk more about this tomorrow. This is just an overview. It's here. Right, this is actually the project, but you know, we can talk about it in greater detail tomorrow and the weeks to come. Okay? Now, Nathan is going to show you an actual example of what a story map would look like. We put together a story map on an inventor that helped Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison, who is of African American descent, namely Lewis Latimer. And this sort of gives us an opportunity to introduce CLRI, or culturally linguistically relevant initiatives, into the classroom through this story map you're about to see.
Thanks, Mr. Crump.
Sure.
So everyone, I know some of you might not have a laptop, but go to arcgis.com. That's arcgis.com.
Excuse me.
And if there are any who haven't been able to navigate to the website, you can raise your hand. Has everyone been able to get there? Great. So now we're going to click sign in. And what you're going to do is put in your username information and that password. And the password is a temporary password, so what it will do is it will prompt you to create your own new password. So it's important to make sure that you use something that you'll be able to remember. So see, it's going to look like this. Once you log in with the temporary password, you put in your old password, and then you can create a new one. And the new password, it can't be the same password that you have as the temporary. So. And then after you select, it will prompt you with a security question. You can just choose. I always choose my city I was born in. But don't worry if you do forget your password. It's important to write it down and remember it. But we are able, Mr. Crump would be able to help you reset your password in the future as you're doing your projects. Says everyone, yes.
Yeah, mine went to 2.
Yep, that's good. You're logged in then.
Well, like we never changed our password.
And it's automatically, are you actually logged in? Or?
I think so. Yeah. They didn't bring up all that stuff though.
Okay, so that means that actually those are your passwords. So you can keep a hold of those, and then you don't have to worry about this process. So are there everyone has been able to log in and they're able to see, they should be able to see home here. So everybody sees this. This is the organization. So if you see this little, what my friend, she would call it a waffle or a tic-tac-toe symbol, you end up clicking that and you go to story maps. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our first story map. Now, have you guys been able, I don't know if you logged into Schoology while Mr. Crump was going over the biography. In that folder, there are some images, and then there's also story map instructions. And you can open that up because as we're creating this story map, we're all going to create the same story map together. And so it'll be easy where you can end up opening up those instructions. I'm going to go through. You'll be able to view it up here on the screen, but if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Mr. Crump will be able to help navigate, and also if you're not able to, catch up or something, you can come back to it. So that's the nice thing. You'll also have access to this video as well. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create this story map that is right here. And this is going to be an example of what your project could be. And then what we'll be doing is we'll go and everyone's going to make this identical story map as an example. So have any of you heard of Lewis Latimer?
Anyone familiar with Lewis Latimer?
I wasn't familiar with Lewis Latimer until recently, actually. And everyone focuses on Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell, but there is an inventor who didn't invent electricity, and there was a great quote, but he made it affordable, and he made it practical, and he helped Thomas Edison. And he was an African American, and he was born to parents who were formerly enslaved people that had fled. But we can talk about Lewis Latimer's life as we're creating the story map. So have all of you been able to download the instructions or at least have access to those images in the Schoology? Because you'll need to at least download those on your computer, and then you can go back to them later. So what we'll do now is, you see this create your first story when you clicked on the ArcGIS story maps. And you'll click Start a Story, and it will launch the story builder. And then what you'll be doing is adding a cover image, and you'll be titling your story. So I'm going to open up the instructions myself.
Salud.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a cover image to make the story map look really, it helps it with, you're going to be showing who your great person that you're going to be talking about with your biography project, so it's always good to start with a nice intro. And having a cover image, you're going to click this Add Cover Image or Video, and then you'll be able to browse your files and then select Image 1.
Can't you just drag it instead of download?
You can. So that was a really good point, a student in the back, that there are multiple avenues to be able to add content. So one of them is actually dragging the image. So thank you for bringing that up. And if you'd like, you can also change the image later if you want to find something better. So the nice thing about story maps is that you can go back to them and change them. So say you're working on your biography project and you don't like the picture that you used, and it's the day before the assignment's due, and you're like, I need something better, you can do it very quickly and drag it or upload it. So now, kind of going in line with what Mr. Crump was saying, it's very important that we cite our work and we give credit. So if you hover over this little image, you're going to see this gear sign with options. And when you click that, you're going to click Properties. This is alternative text, which is a separate thing for people with disabilities. You can end up like those that are blind, for example. This will help with certain types of software. This is about accessibility. It's something that isn't necessarily required, but Esri is trying to make things more accessible to people with disabilities, especially when navigating like a website, and when there are like text to voice recorders. This will help, and you can kind of write a descriptive alternative text to the image. But what we'll be doing is giving the source, and we'll click here again, and then with the display, if we scroll down, there's this attribution sign. So we created these to make it easy, where you could just copy and paste the text. You'll be coming up with your own text, but this will help make it a bit easier as we're going through making this story map together. So I just copied and pasted drawing of a component for an early electric light drew by Latimer. And then the source is the Smithsonian Institution. And what that then does is puts a little eye in the upper left corner of the image that you select. And you can actually even insert a website link. So say you find a really cool website about the person that you're writing your project about, and you have this cool image and you want them to see this website. Whoever ends up viewing it, they can go over the eye and you can end up clicking a link to it. So has everyone been able to put that image? If you're not, you can raise your hand. Great. So now what we'll do is we'll title the story. And we'll put Lewis Latimer. He was born in 1848 and he died in 1928. So I put in a subheading. You'll be able to do that as well to kind of give, like, whenever you see a title, you'll end up sometimes seeing a colon and then some qualifying information, and it's just to kind of add a little bit more to your title. So next, what we're going to do is add some content blocks. So basically, think of it like when you're building like if you use wooden blocks and you're making a building, you can end up making this story with these different blocks, the content blocks. And the way to see that is you have this little plus sign here. And it says tell your story. If you hover over it, you'll be able to click it and you're going to see all kinds of different types of content blocks. So today we're going to learn about how to do the text content block. We're going to add in a map because we might as well use Esri for what it is, Geographic Information System. But then there's all kinds of different things. You can embed videos, you can put in different sounds. So there's all kinds of different types of media that you can do. We won't be able to get through all of them, but you'll be able to explore those on your own. And there's all kinds of different resources, and Mr. Crump will be able to guide you through those resources moving forward when you're doing your own projects. So the first and most basic content block is the text. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the text content block. And what will end up happening is you'll be able to select the type of text. So just to go back again, we have this plus sign. Add content block. Once we add the content block, we then select text. So once you have the text, you can copy and paste the text from the instructions. And then if you hover over and you highlight it, what will end up happening is you can bold it or italicize it, or you can change it to be a little bit larger text, and you can also select to make it a heading or a subheading. So for now, we're just going to do paragraph. Do you have a question?
Mine's not working. I can't get to
The instruction document, it's in.
Ask your question of Nathan when he's.
So if you're not able to copy and paste it, you're going to have to download it to your computer. And then you can open it on your Word, like Microsoft Word, and then you'll be able to copy and paste. Sometimes if you open the document online, it's difficult to, you're not able to copy and paste. Yes?
When I'm trying to paste it, it's not popping up.
It's not popping up. So some of you might be familiar with like dragging and then right-clicking to copy and then right-clicking to paste. The easiest way for copying and pasting text here is by doing Control-C and then Control-V. So I'll show you as an example. I'll just end up deleting this out here. So if we go to the document that's been downloaded, what you'll do is you'll highlight the text and then click Control-C. And then we'll head back in, make sure to select the text content block, and then Control-V. Yep. Was that able to work?
No.
No? So I know actually one thing with story maps, and this is just to kind of help you guys, like you're gonna have to, it'll be way easier when you end up typing out your own project. So if you're not able to copy and paste it, then you can type and come back to it later.
See? Did you try it? Santana, control yourself, because you're being recorded.
So now we're going to move on to a different type of content block. And one kind of tip is if you're building out the story map and you don't know how to add, a new content block and you don't know what you're doing in terms of like adding content and you don't know how to do it, if you move your cursor and just hold it, you'll see a plus sign pop up. So once you see the plus sign pop up, then you're able to select a new content block. Did you have a question?
No.
So now the next content block that we're going to do is image.
All right, cutting and pasting.
So again,
Okay, no problem.
the gentleman in the back talking about how you can drag different files in. You can drop and drag a file, but you can also, so the one that we're going to be wanting to choose is image 2.
Right.
So I'll show that again. You're going to end up clicking the plus sign,
Here.
selecting image, and then browse your files and click image 2. And then after you select it, then you can click add.
No, there's no paste.
Will that be above or below the paragraph?
It's really, so now like for this, it will be below it, but for this is just kind of to help you guys understand how to make a story map because you'll be creating your own story maps. So really it just depends on how you want to, you know, tell your story. So like if it makes more sense that the image of Lewis Latimer is above the text so then they can read after, then it's just personal choice. But really good question, because this is another thing is you get to be creative with this and you get to make this your own. And I know I've worked with teachers that talk about when they've worked with students making story maps at how this is something that you can have publicly published and people will be able to view it, and then you can take this with you later on, and if any of you are interested in going to college and your careers, you'll be able to show this as a portfolio. So Mr. Crump will be able to show you how to save this, so in the event that, you know, everything online isn't forever, and sometimes websites, you know, shut down or that content gets lost. So you can end up creating a PDF record of this, and this is something that you can take with you as you're going into high school and exploring options with career. Yes, Mr. Crump. 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what we're going to do now is you're able to do text and you're able to talk about adding images. The last thing that we'll do is adding a map. So we're going to click the plus sign, click map, and what this will do is prompt you, and you'll see this So once you have this, you'll be able to select My Groups and the Lewis-Latimer geography points.
Can you review that again?
Yeah, of course. I'll go and I'll show it again. And here's another thing. If you're not able to see it now, they're in the instructions. And as you go through building out the story map, it's going to be on this page where it talks about adding the map. So as you guys build this out, you'll be able to view that. So again, what you'll do is you're going to click the plus sign, map, and then you'll click My Groups, and then you'll select the Lewis-Latimer geography points. Once this pops up, you can then click the Place Map. So we just have a couple of minutes. Are there any questions? I'm sorry? So you'll be able to make some cool maps, and you'll be able to see like where, maybe your important like industrialist, where they went, or an important biography person, the locations where they were born. So you will be able to do that. So just by a show of hands, how many do you think will want to use story maps instead of Google Slides? Okay. I think it's a lot easier personally, but it's up to you, and that's why Mr. Crump is giving you the option, because we want to make this a really fun and important experience and educative. And Mr. Crump?
So the timeline?
Yeah.
So one last feature, just in an effort to be complete, is the timeline. You can also add a timeline to Google Slides also. To the story map.
So you'll have access to this completed story map just to kind of show as an example, but if you just Google like any topic that you're interested in and type in ArcGIS story map, there might be a shot that there is one that's been made, and then you can look at all kinds of different examples and information. But to address Mr. Crump's point, you just basically go in and you would end up clicking the plus sign and scrolling down to find this content block timeline. And then you can end up selecting the layout. Once the timeline is created, then you can end up putting in the time and date and then the description. You can also add images, and the nice thing is if you are in a rush and you don't have the time, you can just create it and go back to it and edit it later.
Questions, anyone?
No, sir.
Well, this is technology that the district has approved that is being utilized more and more in social studies. Some of your colleagues in the building are using this. They're using this at City Honors. This is cutting edge because it does incorporate STEM. It does incorporate geography. And, it's a different way other than your traditional Google Slides or PowerPoint to present information, and you'll have access to this for the rest of the year. And we will be incorporating story maps during Black History Month, Women's History Month, because we'll have similar projects then. So get comfortable with story maps, all right, ArcGIS, okay? Please maintain your usernames and passwords, okay? Thank you. And let's thank Nathan for coming and doing